Hello, everybody. In the pain paradox video, I mentioned some concepts. And as for some commentary back, the feedback I got was actually kind of good, and I very much thank that. This time, I want to talk about something different. And this time, that different thing will be, quite simply put, something relating to, well, yeah, religion and what of religion to civil rights in relation to euthanasia. If you're wondering why the game's paused, and because I can't play and read at the same time, so I'm just going to pause it temporarily just for safety. The fundamentalist religion, the fundamentalist Christian site, gotquestions.org. The name's longer, but you don't need to know the name. Said, the sanctity of life means that humanity is more sacred than that of the rest of creation. That means greater than lesser animals. And as I said, if we love God, we will value our own life as part of God's plan and to do His will until it comes about that His will is better served by our deaths, which is a very extremist mentality to have, but that is really beside the point. We will protect ourselves from harm, whether it be abortion, euthanasia, human trafficking, and other abuses. This is actually countered by another theologian who said on 2014, the theologian is Paul Batum, Paulbadham, and he said regarding euthanasia, Jesus' golden rule was that we should always be treated as we wish to be treated ourselves. Applying this to assisted dying is, when people's suffering are so great that they make repeated requests to die, it seems that the denial of that loving compassion, which is the hallmark of Christianity, to refuse their requests. If we truly love our neighbour as ourselves, how can we deny them the death the death we would wish for ourselves in such a condition? I'm pretty sure that's the only thing me and him would agree on, but that is besides the point. I'm not doing that. Okay, that done, I can continue the gameplay. Let's hope it doesn't crash, because with the mod selection I have, there's always a potential to crash. I'm really sorry about that. And if it happens, don't worry, it's nothing on your end that's messy, it's my end. So don't worry. The point about this is that religion itself, with the whole sanctity of life, I think it's the problem from the start. The whole thing of sanctity of life making human lives inherently somehow better than other lives is wrong. You can't just go there and say that human lives are better than non-human lives. We are at the end of the animals. At least to some degree, I have more alignment to progressive Christians in this aspect than others. That is true. It's like how in other videos I have more relation to do with conservatives regarding niceness in politics. I might say that's a contradiction, but I don't think so. On euthanasia itself, though, be progressive, moderate, or fundamentalist. For me, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, the Australian Christian Lobby, which is a majorly Christian group, actually actively using their power in politics to undermine the question. That itself is a big crime, in my books, for progression. So how can you say you stand for progression when at the end of the day you are not standing for progression at all, but actually for regression? There was a poll though, and that was a case of, well, I'm not going to say anymore because accessing issues, don't blame me for that. It was something essentially based around the acceptance of euthanasia. In 2019, it was a poll done in 2023. It was actually quite an interesting poll because in that one, the participants, around 71 to 74% of each Christian section did actually agree with some degree of euthanasia. That was a fascinating point to mention as a whole. And I think that in general, yeah, most progressive Christians would agree to that. That's where I think it's actually really quite good as a whole. I mean, some of the progressive Christian things. But at the end of the day, the fact is, MPs and members of parliament are still going in to talk to Christian or religious news outlets, which are known for being right-wing or otherwise, and then just literally showing doubts on euthanasia and progress. So there's that. On top of the Christian lobby actively undermining as well, that makes people who would claim to be Christian, or a lot of Christian-based things, essentially against. This is a huge issue because it's hard then to say that it stands for complete compassion when euthanasia itself is divided in the population. In general, one, but especially amongst religious communities due to the actual bogus religious commands of religion. You can't say that human beings are inherently special. And then this U-turn when you want to say that they aren't. And euthanasia is fine the next second, necessarily. It's a really hard thing to say, because if you were to say that, then you must just leave religion itself, because there's no point doing it, because then, why bother? I just don't understand a lot of the mentality behind Christianity around it. Is that like the sanctity of life? Whose life exactly are you defending? Are you defending the lives of those who, under you, your clergy, your power base, your financial base? Euthanasia itself probably won't hurt most people. That is a thing people tend to forget in general. Most people who probably want euthanasia are people who actually already in a bad situation in the first place. Euthanasia itself isn't like a silver bullet to kill them off like that. Utilitarian weapon. Of course, there's the potential of that, and there's legal consequences, legal and social consequences of having such a having such a faulty system as a whole. Really, really difficult to then say one thing, mean another. And then have scripture literally say you're the chosen people. So are you, as then Christians, chosen by Almighty, or are you just normal?
Go ahead, please.
The whole thing about mortality as well is actually really interesting, and this is where the danger of religion is. And this is why I don't care if you're progressive or not. The issue is ultimately in the fact that you can't say life is the origin of life is in God's design, because both progressive and non-progressive say that, and then the next second do something to undermine that. It's stupid. It makes no sense. You can't pretend and play ball when it suits you and then not when it doesn't. This is the issue, I think, as a whole with a lot of Christians, is that they seem to think that they can pick and choose between things. And picking and choosing between something in religion is really weird, because if you're going to be so nosy and pick and choose so much in religion, why are you even religious in the first place? That I have a genuine question. And if any of you are religious listeners, tell me. I find it really curious. Because I don't see much reason to be religious necessarily in an ecosystem of like this anyway. Like, what do you gain from being religious in this ecosystem of trying to play around scriptures so much to live your life? Especially around issues like euthanasia and abortion and stuff like that, where religion itself isn't helping anyone in the grand scheme of things by wanting to undermine a lot of progression. The issue, I think, that comes with religion, more so, is that, yes, do I necessarily think? It's more the issue of beliefs themselves, like afterlife, death itself. The issue of the afterlife doctrine of Christianity, for example,
It's my pleasure.
really problematic one in my book. It's really hard to then say that you're going to be like going to heaven or hell, either or, and then not be able to prove anything. That itself is a huge, huge issue. And more so than that, it's more than a huge issue. It in fact can lead to false hope, delusion, and, well, frankly, issues. The issues arise, get out of control, people actually think there's an afterlife, that life doesn't matter. What is the real difference? What then? Oh, wait, everybody? Fuck outside. There you go. Problem solved. Anyway, as I was saying, the issue with a lot of these religious people is not necessarily people themselves. It's the issue of, frankly, the scripture and doctrine they're following. Life in heaven after your mortal birth. That's a doctrine. It's stupid. What are you proving by that? Are you trying to think? Because for some, that can be a measly excuse to try and pretend to be good in the grand scheme of things, to not be barred from heaven if you believe in that. The more fundamentalist you are, the worse this contradiction gets. At least progressive Christians kind of a cop out and says everyone goes to heaven, but that's a different issue completely. But in regards to euthanasia, the reason I'm saying this actually matters is because throughout history of religion, there's been elements of like suicide and like other stuff like that being considered as not going to heaven worthy. And given the constrictions within doctrine itself in religion, stuff around taking your own life and stuff like that, well, I think it's not exactly the most. They may have some okay principles here and there about some light things, but the core issue still is the doctrine of an afterlife. Why assume there's an afterlife? Why push that there's an afterlife when you can't prove any of it? Why push anything if you can't prove it? Does that mean some people can live on in false hope, thinking that there's something greater, something more interesting out there that's just waiting for them? Waiting for their. Thinking that they can see their loved ones again, their family again. While it may make funerals less awkward, death more easy to deal with, but it doesn't help your own death. Your own death can there be kind or suffer, kind, nice, or hard and harsh. Do I necessarily think that's a bad thing? Either or. Well, that's its fate, isn't it? You don't control what you get necessarily. You can get one or the other. Doesn't necessarily matter in the long run. No. But the whole thing about heaven and the afterlife can make some people who actually follow it really dangerous. Dr. Salt. Because then what? Then what's left? You're left with a doctrine, scripture, and other things, which ultimately leave an image of a utopia of sort in the afterlife after you die. That is, after all, my greatest issue with all of this. It's, of course, the most direct and material one is, of course, the actual denial of rights for those who actually want to die and move on in life, move on, not suffer anymore. Then, people who use religion, Christianity or not, I'm just Christianity here because it's one I know the most. I grew up with it. I'm ex-Catholic. I don't need to explain that much about it either because it's pretty well known about. More specifically, I was raised Catholic. Why does this matter? Because there's weird apostasy laws in some cases. Because if people actually take their religious stuff to the word and seem to think that it's all absolutely true, apostasy laws can be kind of awkward. And more so, it's honestly very ludicrous that religious people seem to think that they have the authority to dictate other people's lives based on religious values. Because when in reality, they have no right to do that. They have no right to even judge others for actions they can't even actual themselves. It's honestly a case of entitlement. And there's honestly, they should be kicked out. A lot of the religious lobbies and organs in this should have been kicked out of the whole talks, trapped to their own isolation areas, and had to deal with it. Because including it also means that you're going to just give them a free platform to push whatever superstitions they're going to hold. And when you put that over the actual fates of people who actually need hope, a way out, and most importantly, a way to die in peace, with respect, and then religion comes in, that is a huge, huge issue. You can't then say that religion is harmless in that situation. If you're going to impose religious morality on, like, euthanasia and abortion, you're just nothing more than a scum at that point. You can't say you're defending any value. Honestly, a lot of the religious people who say that, and a lot of stuff they say, honestly should be quiet. Be you progressive or not. They can speak on behalf of progressive politics, of course. But progressive Christianity? No. Christianity itself should have no power in the discussion. And that, I think, is the biggest issue. People want to include religion too much. People want to include religious integration too much. That makes a huge, huge issue in the grand scheme of things, because then you get issues, conflicts. And then you get inter-religious conflicts. Of course, it's different. They aren't like killing each other anymore, but it's going to cause strife. It's always been one of my main core beliefs that religion should not have any power in terms of influence. I still believe that. I still will not accept any religious morality or authority on issues surrounding sexuality or the right for us to die. Thus, that's why I'm going to call this video the Sanctity of Death. That is what often a lot of the religious figures don't give you. Follow their will, sure. Do you have things to your own death? Not usually. If you're dealing with some fundamentalist fuckwits, as we saw from, let me turn page again. AskQuestions.org, the Christian fundamentalists. You know what they would say? They would say, no, live on. God's will is not for you to die, but to live. Then that raises the question again of, what is God's will? How do you determine what God's will is? How do you determine that? Then how can progressives then go against that? Because at the end of the day, what can progressives say? Progressives would then say, but God stands for something else. Then the progressives can't even prove that variant of what God stands for. That is a huge issue here. One person stands for another thing stands for something. And most importantly, sorry, I'm playing on cheat mode because I don't want to lose progress. No offense. I normally don't do cheat mode unless it's absolutely necessary, but hey. As I say, imitation God's religion. If you allow the conflict of who's God, who stands for whose religious beliefs, and whose God is moral. Is God a progressive person who's going to be like a utopian leader, living in a socialist world future, or is he going to be a conservative who's You're gonna say no more free food, no more medication, and get fucked. Who knows? Now, know what the beauty of all this is? You'll never know, because he doesn't exist. We'll make up words for him. People spread stuff around. People do this, that, or another. At the end of the day, what is he actually standing for? They're not standing for much at all. They're standing for a belief in something they can't even back up or fight it for. Something which can't even speak for itself or have any power. Something in which has nothing to actually defend itself with. At least some apologists out there, as much as I may disdain them, said God should defend, speak for himself in your hearts. But if God's morality was apparently so real and so powerful, how come then that at the end of the day, people who think they're fighting for God, either pro or anti-euthanasia or abortion or whatever, end up resulting in being nothing more than fighting over which interpretation of a fairy or archangel or idol exists. This goes into far greater issue because then it goes into the issues of what then happens of women's rights, LGBT rights. That again is conflicted amongst religions. That makes a religion not helpful at all in the grand scale of things. It's not coherent. It's not helpful. Fighting over nothing at the end of the day to try and think you have something. That itself is not a healthy state to be in. What are you then? I just don't understand often much of these issues they face. They want to pretend, they want to think that they are standing for religious virtues and values, that they are something special. But as I said, the origin of life, in terms of the religious value of human value, is already distorted in the first place. We can't pretend to think that we are special, therefore we are in God's favour. The very fact also in this that death itself, according to that, is denied. The right to death itself is denied, in fact. More than denied, shut down by fundamentalists, allowed by progressives. But that again doesn't solve anything. You're still fighting basically the same enemy. You're fighting the same issue. You're fighting much of the same antagonists. Belief in a God, overall for me, is one of the most irrational things in the world. The people in it aren't necessarily bad. The people aren't necessarily evil. And to say that would be presumptuous. Some are evil, some not evil. Some can be good, some can be bad. And most importantly, some can be decent human beings, which is the most important factor here. But those who are decent human beings should not involve religion in morality. Have your own morality. Have your morality defending society, human rights of people within your own society, instead of fighting for a religion. And with that, I will leave you. I hope you all had a lovely time